Hi, and welcome to today's episode. I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, Amy Foxwell. Amy is an author and consultant, and she has also been a hair puller for over 50 years, looking for alternative and natural methods to deal with her trichotillomania and dermatillomania. She developed the all-natural Trick Stop kit and Trick Stop oil, and she is also an active member in the Trick community. Welcome, Amy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And to start, let's talk a little bit about you and your story and what led you to wanting to help people with Trick.
Yeah, sure. It's a long story as it is with a lot of people with this condition. And the thing is, I wish I had known that I was in a story much earlier, because I really just discovered it, that I actually had a condition and wasn't just crazy from pulling. Just, you know, I guess I was about 40 when I realized that, and, with the great internet that was at our fingertips, all of the sudden I could see that there were a lot of other people discussing this, and, I thought I was the only one, and I think that's kind of a symptom of a lot of people. So the good news is, the internet is there and there's a lot more communication, and there's more of a community. But when I was, little, I mean, I can still remember one of my first memories, pulling out all my eyelashes and putting them in a Sucrets box, saving them to show my mom, and then her seeing that I had these huge blank spaces in my eyelashes, and gasping and being aghast. And then I realized as a kid, whoa, wait a minute, that's something's weird about that. So I never showed her that box. But that kind of sat with me. And then I went through, I got my eyelashes back, but then at university, I pulled all of them out and my eyebrows as well. And then, was just a puller and had no idea that I was a puller until mentioned it to my doctor, just randomly, because I thought maybe I had like an infection or something in my eyelashes. And then she said, "Oh, you probably have this weird word," which I didn't understand. And then she said, "It's a condition." And I immediately said, "I don't have a condition," because that just, I just immediately rejected that. Like, there, no, I don't have a condition. There's nothing wrong with me. But I slunk away and did some research because the internet was available. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have a condition. And then that just, I sat with that for a while. And then I just decided that I started trying to kind of self-diagnose, and then did a lot of things to try to figure it out. And then I really wanted to find kind of natural things that would help, and I couldn't find much. There was a lot of chemicals, and there was a lot of medicine, and there was a lot of, really, I don't know, seemed like really dramatic stuff going on, and I rejected that. So I just started putting my own, methods and my own treatment together. And then it did really well. I did really well with it. And then I started realizing that, wow, if I was looking for it and I couldn't find it, then maybe other people were looking for it. And maybe that was a way to turn this whole thing into a silver lining, that I could, you know, give back and let other people know that, hey, there are other ways of going about this. So that seems pretty long. Sorry. I feel very
No, it's
passionate about this
definitely
story. So
shorter than mine. So, no, it's perfectly fine, and I'm happy to know it. And I will just tell you that that's actually how I met Amy. Is I always am searching on the internet, even though I'm not currently pulling my hair. I am always looking for ways to help my clients. And so I was searching hypnosis for trichotillomania because right now I'm actually getting certified in hypnotherapy to hopefully use this as another modality in conjunction with EFT for my clients. And I couldn't really find anything about hypnosis and trichotillomania, but I stumbled on Amy's website that is trichotillomaniastop.com. And I purchased the whole package because I wanted to know what she had written about it. I wanted to know what she felt helped her. I wanted to listen to the hypnotherapy track, and I wanted to see what her oil was that she developed for Trich. So she sent me all of that, and it's fabulous. And I want you to tell our listeners a little bit about the natural methods that helped you and that you talk about in your kit, in your book.
Well, I mean, I think the big learning I had is that um, it's a condition, and you're never going to not be a puller. You can just be an ex-puller. So I, putting a lot of methods in place and a lot of lifestyle methods and having a lot of different things that you can do at your fingertips, figuring out what works for you and what works for you when, I think is really important. So my goal for this was really to do a kit, to put everything together. So the manual has lots of different things that you can try. And as I've spoken to different people, some things work better for some people than others, and I think it's clear that there's maybe a lot of different reasons for this, both genetic and hormonal, and kind of a mix of how this is all working together. So I think it's really clear to me that that means you have to have several different methods in your, in your quiver. So I, I personally, what really worked for me was having the oil and being able to, every time I had an urge, to use the oil instead of pulling. So it was, really behavioral therapy and switching over from pulling to just stroking. That helps me a lot, break the cycle, because then I wouldn't have that the actual physical feeling of pulling, and when you get that feeling, it kind of gets those neurons to continue building those neurons to like that pain, to be stimulating. That stimulus is feeding your brain. And so it allowed me to kind of to 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 skip that, so I was stroking instead of pulling, and then gradually I stopped stroking. But I really didn't want to use, lattice or some other chemical. Because I knew that this was going to be a long-term thing. Like, I needed to be able to use this all the time. And I am a really strong believer of herbal medicines. I mean, I'm a strong believer of both. I think it's great to use medicine, and we need antibiotics when we need them, and some people do benefit from different medications. That's all great, but I do think that maybe it's underused, natural, and a lot of people can get away with just using natural methods. So it was really important for me to find something that was using, what nature has already provided us. So that pushed me to go ahead and make my own, because all I could find was, lattice and all these other chemical things.
Yes, and
So
so when you're talking about, how you use the oil and that you stroked the area, the lashes, the brows, instead of actually pulling, that's retraining your neural pathways. That's a behavior modification, technically. And once you do it enough, your brain forgets about the kind of the high that you get, if you will, from the actual pull of the hair or the eyebrow or the eyelash. So it is what you've developed and what worked for you. The stroking with the oil was kind of just a way to replace that habit with something else. And using, even though you said it didn't feel the same, it just, it was a way to retrain basically your brain, your neural pathways, to not do that specific action. And it worked for you. And I think it's awesome.
yes,
And like you said, different things work for different people. And I, that's why I I'm always researching for my clients because everyone needs something different. I was able to just stop with tapping, and um, I taped my fingers. I also did use some fidget toys, like in the car was a really big deal for me. I was always pulling my hair when I was in the car. So I had this fidget toy and I had this special tape that I send a link to my clients to buy on Amazon. And so I always had my fingers taped up and those fidget toys until I was able to get it under control to where it just wasn't a habit anymore. But I also was wondering if you could explain a little bit because I've read your manual from cover to cover, which it's wonderful. Explain a little bit about NAC to our listeners because I've read a lot about it and clients ask me about it specifically. And there are studies with NAC and Trick. And I'm wondering, did you ever use that? And when I bought your kit, it came with some NAC. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and tell our listeners what it is and how it works, and maybe how often do you need to take it, things like that. Not that you're a doctor, but um, just what your experience with it has been.
Yeah, so yes, definitely want to caveat that I'm not a doctor. So NAC is an amino acid, which are the building blocks, right? And so they've done some studies, but very serious studies, and they've found that it does help um, quite dramatically in about 60% of cases. So I think that is one of those things that you need to try it and see if it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, it probably won't work for you. And they're not quite sure why it works. And they're doing a lot of research. Actually, I had worked with an association to do some research with the people that were using my kit, and also to uh, um, support them financially to do some research on that because it's very encouraging. We still don't know. They have not totally pinpointed what the cause of trick is, and like I said earlier, there's probably lots of different causes for it. So we're not sure what it is, how it's working, but I think it's definitely worth trying.
And yeah, and I've actually, recommended if, you know, checking with your doctor first, obviously, to try this for some of my clients. And they've also asked me, and they've also been taking it before they've been coming to see me. And a lot of people do have very good results with it. And, the dosage differs between people, but it is something that has been studied and does certainly make a difference for some people. So, and it's relatively safe from what I understand. So, not that we're doctors or can diagnose or treat anything, and you always need to talk to your medical care professional before taking anything. But this is something that you can definitely look into, and Amy does talk about it in her Trick Stop kit. The other thing that I loved about your kit was the hypnosis. So, talk a little bit about why you decided to include that in your kit.
Well, the same thing. I was trying to bring all the different methods together that have been shown to make a difference. For some people, hypnosis works better than others. I found this really great woman that does just a great hypnosis. She's very qualified and has had great success, and I just really adore her, Rachel. And so she's got a great voice. It's just so nice. I could go to sleep listening to um, her recording. So yeah, it's really powerful. I think hypnosis is really powerful. Again, working those brain pathways, and there's so many things that we can do to rewire ourselves. And I mean, I just think that's such a great thing about nowadays because we know so much about the brain. I even feel really blessed that my kids are being raised in this environment, understanding that the brain is elastic and it can change, not like when I was a kid and it was just like you were this way and that's that. So I think using all these different tools that can have an effect on the elasticity of the brain is just great.
Yes, I agree. And the hypnosis, I've listened to multiple times prior to going to sleep, and I'm sure it put me to sleep because I don't even remember if I listened to the whole thing. But yes, her voice is very um calming,
Soothing.
and yes, it's just fabulous. So it was a treat to get to listen to that because, like I said, there aren't that many of those around, and it's something that I'd like to offer to my clients as well. And it works on a subconscious level. You don't have to be really even present. You're just using it as a form of relaxation, of meditation, and her words are working on your neural pathways subconsciously. So it's not even, it's the easiest thing you could do for yourself, honestly, is to listen to some hypnosis when you're in a relaxed state and not driving a car or anything like that. But I found it very soothing, and I think it's a great tool to add to your toolbox, specifically if you're trying to overcome trick. Um, so my next question for you is, what is your advice for anyone with a BFRB that thinks that there is no help or that they've tried everything and nothing works?
Oh, wow. I know that feeling. I really
Mhm,
know that feeling. So I think, it's multiple. One is to be kind to yourself and that it is a real condition, like it's an actual thing. You're not just crazy. Um, and I think that for me is the key thing because then you're going to treat it like a real thing and put in place actual steps to deal with it like you would do if you actually had an illness. So you can't just keep saying, I'll just stop pulling, or tomorrow I'm going to stop pulling, or, when the new year starts, or I can do it by myself. You've got to get help. You've got to consider getting behavioral therapy if you've tried to do it by yourself. I personally worked through the behavior therapy on my own, having read things, but I don't think that everybody can or should do that. So getting therapy, using natural treatments, and understanding that there is a natural way of dealing with this. You don't have to medicate. You don't have to use these medical creams, and um, I think also finding someone, and I know it's really hard to talk about it because I hid this for forever. I'm still
yeah.
quite, shy about talking about it. I do know when I finally let some of my close friends know about it, it was such a relief, but
Mhm.
and I know that's a really scary place, but even if it's just a therapist, I think not being alone or finding the trick community, I often have people reaching out to me saying, "I've got this and I want somebody else to talk to," and I just put people in touch with each other, like on a Facebook page, and just say, "Hey, talk to each other." Or parents, I know for parents, it's terribly difficult to
Mhm.
deal with this with their children. So, being able to talk to other parents, finding somebody that their child can talk to that deals with it. So I think, it's twofold. It's finding some support, some actual human support, and not feeling alone, and recognizing that it's an actual condition, and then putting in place some kind of method and trying lots of different things. And then the third thing would be to really be kind to yourself and understand that there will be setbacks. So you will fall off the wagon, and that's okay. And you will get back on it, and you will always be a puller. You'll just be an ex-puller, and you can manage that. It's not going to happen like right now. It's going to be a life thing. And that's part of what makes up your story. So, you know, each one of us has a story and each one of us has challenges. So that's part of your story. And it's how you deal with that story that makes a difference. So I think, being kind, finding help, getting some methods together, and just keeping at it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a big undertaking, and you have to be in the frame of mind to want to stop. I have a lot of parents that will call me up and say, I'm making my child see you. And I'll say, you know what? This isn't going to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll say they aren't into tapping. They think it's the stupidest thing. You have to be ready and willing. And some people aren't ever. And that's fine. If that's what you choose, that's your decision. And I'm not going to try to change you at all. I'm just going to teach you a tool that you can have when you're experiencing uncomfortableness that you can use. And I think what Amy said is very important when she said you have to get like a plan. There needs to be a plan that you need to get and write it down. And in her kit, it really does give you it outlines ways to develop a plan for you that works for you. And that's why she gives you all these different tools, and you can pick and choose which ones are going to be the right ones for you. But being able to stick to a plan, even if you fail, and it is like so common. I mean, you are not a bad person. You are trying to overcome an addiction to to this disorder that you've had for, I mean, I had mine for 36 plus years. So it's hard. It's like stopping smoking. It's like quitting drinking. It's a hard road. So, not beating yourself up about it and getting back on the horse the next day and saying, you know what, I wasn't perfect today. Today's a new day. I'm going to try again and start with, you know, that plan and decide, hey, maybe I did X, Y, and Z last week and only X and Y really work for me. So you might eliminate parts of that plan along the way, but at least you'll have a plan in place and you're not going about it kind of willy-nilly where you know, I can't tell you how many times on New Year's Day I said, "Oh, this is the year. I'm stopping pulling. I'm giving myself, you know, New Year's Day, January 1st, and I'd pull before the end of the day." So
Yeah. It's so
it's just not
stressful.
good to set, yeah, you can't set goals in your mind. It's you need to have it written down. You need to have somewhere that you can be consistent. You need to have a journal, write down those times that you are pulling, have fidget tools or your oil available to you during all of those times and in those places that you would normally pull. You're trying to change a habit. And if you aren't being conscious, a lot of it is being present with what's going on, being present with your emotions, being present with what you're doing with your hands, how you're using your energy. So having this plan in place is a huge deal. And that's where this kit really comes into play. It can give you ideas and you can pick and choose what you need and come up with the plan that's best for you. So Amy, I want to ask you about tapping and tell me, do you know about tapping? Have you used tapping?
Yeah, I do know about tapping, and I think it's really interesting how this, how getting in touch with you came about. I think it's, as we discussed before, serendipity. Because I had even put on my Facebook page, does anybody out there have anything to contribute? Because I want to talk about tapping in my kit, and I have a small part, but I really wanted to find somebody just like I found Rachel, who is just a great person to be working with and a great resource. Was looking for somebody for tapping, and we just found each other because you found me, and then that was great. I know about tapping because I was at an event, and a child that I was with got stung and was having a reaction to it. And this woman had them do tapping, and the whole thing just worked out fine. And everything was fine in the end after this like emergency kind of thing. And so I sat with her and I said, what is that? Like, what was that? What just happened? And then she explained it to me, and then I thought, that sounds interesting. So then I started doing some research on it, and that's when I decided, okay, I need to add this to the next version of my book, and I need to get some input on it, and I need to find a specialist because seems really powerful to me, and I've just seen it actually work in front of my eyes. So I know it's a thing. So, yeah, I didn't do tapping because I was already really in feeling okay and in control of it, but I would be completely open to doing it. And I even have, my daughter suffers probably because genetically, a lot of times we know this happens genetically. And I think maybe she has some issues that are related to this, what's causing my trichotillomania. And I'm considering, getting her into tapping and allowing her to have that tool with her, especially as she goes off and starts her life. I'd like her to have that, you know, that tool with her.
Yes, it's something that you can use for everything. Not not just pulling. Some clients will come to me for that specific thing, and then they'll say, "Well, I don't have to tap anymore." And I'll say, "No, tap for everything. Tap always. Tap for anything you can think of. Tap to manifest. Tap to because you're having a bad day. Tap because you're having a good day. Tap for, whatever comes up in your life that is hard, or that you're having a conflict with or struggling internally with. So it's really an awesome thing to have. And um so I guess you kind of answered my question, Amy, that would you agree that adding tapping into a regimen to manage with the BFRB would be helpful?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah,
No
so
question.
I think that, I you guys should our listeners should look out for something that Amy and I might be collaborating on in the future together with her already wonderful manual that she's written. Hopefully, we'll be able to add in a section about tapping. And I'm wondering, would you be willing to have a little tapping experience right now with me?
Oh, yes, I would love that.
Okay, so for our listeners who are struggling because they never think they're going to get over this condition, this addiction, this habit, let's do a little bit of tapping together. So make sure you're in a place that is safe. You're not driving your car or anything, and hopefully be able to have your feet flat on the floor. And before we start, I will guide you through the points. And I know it's kind of hard because you're listening, but you can always go to my website, tapintohealth.net, under the videos section. And there's a quick startup video to show you where the points are. But we're going to give ourselves a number on a scale of 0 to 10. And this is called a SUDS number, and it stands for subjective units of distress. And a lot of times this is a belief that I can never get over this. There's nothing that's going to help me. So I want you to kind of think that number in your head or write it down on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the most true. That is for you. I'm never going to get over this. There's nothing that can help me break this condition, this addiction, this habit. And then we're going to tap, and we're going to start on the side of our hand with a setup statement 3 times. You're going to repeat after me, and then we're going to tap through the points, which I'll guide you through. So here we go. So even though I have this
So
addiction
I have this addiction
to pulling my hair and lashes and brows,
to pulling my hair and lashes and brows.
and I think that there's no way I could ever get over this.
I think that there's no way I could ever get over this.
I'm acknowledging that,
I'm acknowledging that,
and I love and accept myself.
and I love and accept myself.
And even though
And even though
there's all these tools available to me,
there's all these tools available to me,
and maybe I've tried some,
and maybe I've tried some,
I just don't believe they work.
I just don't believe they work.
Nothing seems to work for me,
Nothing seems to work for me,
but I love and accept myself anyway.
but I love and accept myself anyway.
And even though
And even though
I am struggling to stop doing this,
I am struggling to stop doing this,
and I'd love to be able to just be free of this addiction,
and I'd love to be able to be free of this addiction,
I need some guidance,
I need some guidance,
maybe even some clarity
maybe even some clarity
on where to start.
on where to start.
I love and accept myself.
I love and accept myself.
Okay, top of the head. I am open to
I am
working on this addiction.
I am open to working on this addiction.
Eyebrow point. This is really hard,
This is really hard,
but I want to be free.
but I want to be free.
Side of the eye. There are all kinds of safe methods available for me to try.
There are all sorts of safe methods available for me to try.
And under the eye, I am willing to put together a plan.
I am willing to put together a plan.
It's not going to be easy.
It's not going to be easy.
Under the nose, I might fail,
I might fail.
but I'm willing to give it a shot.
I'm willing to give it a shot.
Under the nose, or I mean, I'm sorry, chin point. I would like to get some clarity on where I should start
I would like some clarity on where I should start
because I'm overwhelmed a lot about all of this.
because I'm overwhelmed a lot about all of this.
Collarbone point. And I I feel like I failed so many times.
I feel like I failed so many times.
It's just a constant struggle.
It's a constant struggle.
Under the arms, I am willing to take another look at my healing
I'm willing to take another look at my healing
and the things that are available to me to heal.
and the things that are available to me to heal.
And I I'm making a commitment
And I'm making a commitment
to something that will make me feel good
to something that will make me feel good
and change my energy around my belief about trick.
and change my energy around my belief around about trick.
Okay, so stop there for a minute and take a deep breath. And Amy, I want to know what you thought about that.
I almost teared up.
Uh-huh.
I
It
think
is.
that's really powerful and really lovely.
Yeah, and normally I would do another round and then we check back in on our number. But for all of our listeners that did that, you can check back in on your number, see if anything changed. And you would keep tapping for that belief until you get it down to like a 1 or a 0. And if you can't get it down or other things come up, which a lot of times they do, you'll have aspects of this belief that will come up. That's when you know, hey, I might need a practitioner, someone to help me through this. And um, that's fine too. I mean, a lot of people can't do this on their own. I couldn't. It happened for me in kind of a really eye-opening way that I found tapping. It worked for me. Then all of a sudden it wasn't working. And then I found my trainer and my mentor now, Betsy Muller, who ended up training me. And during my training, I was able to clear the pulling altogether. And then I started my business. And regardless of if I would have been pull free, um, I would have started my business and helped the people that I help now, even if I was still pulling. So it's just part of my story. Like Amy said, it's my story and my journey. And I am very open about my pulling, which I wasn't prior to that. It's almost empowering to, even if you are still pulling, to be able to say, I'm a puller and I embrace it and I'm working on it. And people don't think you're crazy. And the smartest women and men have this disorder. It's like I meet the most amazing people on a daily basis, and they're truly genuine people, and there's nothing wrong with them. They just have this thing, this addiction, and this thing that can be helped if you work at it. So, Amy, do you have anything to add today before we wrap up? I want our listeners to know where they can find you and how to get your Trip Stop Kit if they're interested.
Yeah, they can just go online to trichotillomaniastop.com and there's all the information there. And if they reach out to me at hello at trichotillomaniastop.com, they can, I'll send them a little discount card. I'd be happy to do that. And
Excellent.
I guess my words would be just to be kind to yourself. I mean, just like what you've just said, it's really, there's nothing wrong with you. It's a thing, and you can control it. I mean, that's, my tagline is you can do it. So, it is possible. It is possible to stop and get it under control. So I want people to have that hope. It's a long journey. It can be an incredibly empowering journey, like you've just said, and, yeah, there are people out there to help that understand, so not to feel alone, and, take it day by day.
Yes, I agree. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I am just thrilled that we connected, that the universe kind of put us in touch with each other, and that you could be here today with us you're in the UK, right?
That's right.
Yes. So, I mean, all the way across the um, many oceans to be here with me today. So I appreciate you. And just a reminder, if you'd like to work with me, you can schedule a free discovery call on my website, tapintohealth.net. Or if you're ready to start right now, you can visit my online store and download pre-recorded mini sessions. Thank you so much for listening today. We'll see you next time. And until then, keep tapping.